Welcome to the Guided Podcast, where we support you to find the courage to listen and act. I'm Amanda Goolsby, and with me is
Katz.
Let's get started.
Welcome back to Guided, the Courage to Listen and Act. And today we are talking about desire. And I notice that every time I say the word desire, I think of the idea that, the Buddhism says that we shouldn't have any desires. And yet, what I know to be true is that our willingness to be in our desire and to stay with our desire, even when life is giving us all of these opportunities to settle for something less than what we really desire, is mastery. And it is so very rare. It is so very rare. It has been rare in my own life. It is rare in the lives of those I see around me. And yet when I see people who do it, and when I see myself do it, the rewards that I see come are amazing to look at. And so I want to encourage you to be willing to really know your desire, capital D, desire, and to hold on to your desire until your desire is met. And if your desire is not met, don't settle. Because if you settle, the desire doesn't get met. The desire does not get met. And then you are just getting more and more evidence that you can't have what you desire. But if you hold your desire and you really hold it as something sacred, truly sacred, your desire is sacred. And you wait until life delivers your desire, magic. That is where the magic happens. And that is where you get to show life that you are a master of working with life, with working with what you have, with being resourceful and really working with your power in the highest of ways. But it's really hard to do because society, cultural conditioning tells us we shouldn't trust our desire. You're not trustworthy. You shouldn't trust your desire. Your desires are bad. Your desires are going to get you in trouble. That was the big one for me. Amanda, I'm curious for you, what has been the thought that has run through your head throughout your lifetime? What are the words? What does it sound like? I'll tell you mine if you tell me yours, that have kept you from holding on to your desire.
It's not possible.
It's not possible.
What you want is... it's too much.
Too much. You don't deserve that. Is that right? Is it a you don't deserve that? You can't have that.
Yeah. It's more like it's for someone else.
It's not for you. You don't get to have that.
And at times it was a deserving. It was like, who are you to think that you're worthy enough to have that?
Yeah. For me, it's been you're going to get in trouble. That's been such a big one for me. You are going to get in trouble. If you desire it, it will get you in trouble. Your desire is dangerous. Your desire will get you in trouble. Your desire isn't trustworthy. That's been the flavor of mine, less about deservedness and more about trustworthiness and trouble. Like it's wrong. I'm bad. I had a long held story of my wrongness, of my badness, that I wasn't good.
And it's interesting because if you track back in our lives to my upbringing, your upbringing, how maybe my mom and dad were versus your mom and dad were, I think that those stories actually parallel pretty well.
Yeah, our parents were not really upstanding citizens, were they?
But it's like, it's interesting to look at and to look back to, because so much of what we now know as we've studied the conscious and the subconscious mind and where our core patterns and our core beliefs are and where they come from, there is, the doings for you, the doing something wrong, or your desire is wrong, your desire is bad, I'm going to be in trouble. Like, there was a lot in your upbringing with
Yes.
your dad,
Mm-hmm.
and you seeing your dad taking
Yeah.
for his desire, like taking from other people for the sake of his desire.
Well, and I want to just rephrase something I said about our parents. It was our dads. Our moms were pretty upstanding people. At least my mom was very upstanding and was really mortified by my dad and got, really sucked in by his charm. My dad was so charming and so charismatic and so beautiful. And she just got pulled right in. I mean, he was a con artist of the highest form because he could make you believe him. And that was a gift, and a gift that he gave me, by the way. I mean, I have such a gift of persuasion as a result that I've had to learn how to claim.
Power of influence.
Yeah, like I'm really good. And I've had to learn how to own that from a place that in my system felt honorable and true and beautiful and good, because I did inherit this kind of disgust. The gift of woo. Is that one of the strength finders?
Yeah, it's like you can woo people into whatever, and you can inspire them, and you have to be in integrity with it. Am I doing this for my gain, or am I doing it for a collective win-win?
Yes, and that has taken me quite a long time to get right with in myself, to be able to trust, oh my God, I'm not my dad. I'm here to heal the karma of my dad. I'm here to see how it lived in him and see, like, no, I don't want to do it like that. And it took me, it's part of the reason that I walked away from everything and moved to a farm and filed bankruptcy, was to cleanse my system of that. It's like I didn't know another way to do it. That was the only way I knew how to do it, was to reject it completely in myself so that I could actually find what was more true. And what was more true is exactly what you're saying, is that my desires are good and true and beautiful. My heart just wants the win-win. But yes, what was conditioned in was that my desires are bad and wrong, not just, by the way, from my dad. But if I go back probably to when I was a baby, I don't remember when I was really little, but I can remember it actually starting to come into illumination the first time that I actually ever had sex. And then every time for many years after that I engaged in some sexual activity, I got in trouble. So the first time I had sex, I was too young. I was in 8th grade, and my boyfriend was in 9th grade, and we were really in love. I can look back now and honestly say we were in love. My parents told me there was no possible way we could be in love, that we couldn't know what love was. The reality was my parents didn't know what love was.
So that was a good projection.
Yeah, that was totally their projection. I was in love and he was in love. I know it. And I believe he did too. And it was his 9th grade prom, and he wanted to have sex. And I agreed. Now, there was some coercion. As the day came, I actually wanted to back out, and he was like, oh, but you said you would, and if you loved me, you would. And I did love him. And so we went to the place that my parents specifically said, after the prom, do not go to the baseball fields. You're not allowed to go to the baseball fields. Of course, we went to the baseball fields, and of course, the thing that they least wanted to happen occurred. I lost my virginity, and they found out.
How did they find out?
we were in I mean, I was just stupid. We were in a limousine and the limo took us. And of course the limo told my parents, I'm sure. Like, I don't even know, but I'm sure that, duh. Anyhow, they found out and I was in trouble. I was in big trouble. I was not allowed to see him the whole summer. And I was grounded until I went to summer camp. I still went to summer camp. And then at summer camp, because now I was sexually active, I went to the tents to get sexually active with one of the boys at summer camp, and I got caught.
Oh, wow.
And now they called my parents. And it was that kind of a thing. And then the boy that I got sexually active with completely ghosted me once we got home. So I got in trouble again. My desire hurt me. And that was just actually a repeated theme pretty much up until I met my husband and shut down my sexuality completely and got married and had babies.
But when you say desire, like we are talking in your story right now about sexual desire, but we're actually talking about our heart's greatest desires,
Of course.
about anything and everything we desire in our life and the importance of being able to keep holding on to the faith that it is possible and it's available for you, and actually believing at the core that my desire is pure
Healthy.
and true and healthy, and I deserve this and I can have this and it's good. And how often throughout the course of life, period, for all of us, has there been times for you, for me, for anyone listening, where there was a desire? I really want X, whatever it is, whatever that thing is that we desire.
Right. As you're saying that, I actually think back to when it first arose, had nothing to do with sex. My grandmother, my father's mom, Nana Shirley, who I look like, and God, the older I get, the more I look like her. And I'm like, oh my God, that is Nana Shirley's face. She would take us to the Five and Dime, me and my cousins and my sister. And I wanted everything. Of course. It was so appealing. It was like all the things that I could have possibly wanted. And she was the stingiest human. And my desire was not okay.
Yeah.
She shamed it. She made me feel wrong for it. I actually stole something, got caught. And of course, I got shamed and belittled and just made wrong about it. And the reality is that my desire was perfectly normal. And who knows how far back that goes, right? I am quite sure that that goes back to me being in the crib and my desire to be picked up. You know, there's a story in my family about how I cried all the time and all I wanted was to be held. And once my daughter was born and my dad saw me, I was an attachment parent. Didn't expect to be, by the way.
You were what?
An attachment parent. So this is a style of parenting that I didn't know existed either until my daughter was born. And I thought I was going to be one of those parents that puts their kid in the crib. Like, that's for sure. I'm just going to put her in the crib and let her cry and she'll go to sleep. It'll be fine. Once she was born, it became very clear that I was not going to be that parent. And instead, I was going to adopt this style of parenting called attachment parenting, which is you meet your child's needs. It's laid out beautifully in a book called The Continuum Concept. It is so good, so important, so critical. If you are going to have kids, if you have kids, please read this book. And so I was an attachment parent, which meant that I met my daughter's needs. And she cried a lot. And that meant I was almost always holding her. And that was extremely challenging for my dad to see. He was like, why are you always holding her? You need to put her down. You need to let her get strong. And it took me back to my own babyhood. Oh, that's what they did. Mm-hmm. That's what he thought. Mm-hmm. He thought he was helping me by just letting me cry to get strong and not acknowledging my desires. Right back from when I was an infant. Of course I have attachment issues.
Thank you, Dad, for the anxious attachment.
Yeah, exactly. Like, of course I don't trust my desires
to be met.
Because when I was a baby, they weren't met. For most of us, I think that's the case. Our desires were not met. Our desires were not honored. And so it's very difficult for us now as adult humans to trust what we desire. And that can be from the smallest thing at the 5 and dime to the sexual desires that we have, to desires to make a difference in the world, to build businesses, to earn money, to be in right relationship with ourselves and each other and the planet. These desires can seem not trustworthy, like we can't really have them. And you can. If you desire it, and you have gotten to the place in yourself where you know your goodness and you know your truth and you know your beauty, there's a pathway. You can trust what you desire. And what that means is that you get to hold that desire and own that desire and love that desire and nurture that desire. Even if people are coming to you and reflecting back to you all the places that you don't believe you can have it. And I actually see it with a really good friend of ours. He has had a desire to have a partner, a certain kind of partner that has seemed out of reach. And he's, I think, gotten a lot of reflection back that he should settle. Maybe even from me. And what I have watched him do is not settle and keep reaching and keep being willing to move through the rejection of being in his desire, going towards what he desires, getting rejected from what he desires, and learning from that rejection and keep moving forward. And if I look at my own life over the years, I have done exactly the same thing. And the only time I've ever gotten what I desire is when I have done that. And so the encouragement is to keep going, keep getting clearer and clearer and clearer on what do you desire, and then looking at, okay, is this desire coming from truth, beauty, and goodness? And if it's not, then that's something to look at. Is this desire actually not coming from truth, beauty, and goodness? Is this desire coming from the fulfillment of a wound? Maybe.
Validation, ego, a place where
Greed, where you're like trying to fill a
programming,
hole.
culture, what other people think you or say you should want for yourself because it's what they want for themselves, your parents.
You know, it's interesting because even if I look at that though, I can see the places where I actually needed to meet the desires of my wounded part in order to satisfy them so that I could move into the most true desires.
Desires of your soul.
The desires of my soul, that I couldn't actually become aware of the desires of my soul until I met the desires of my wounded ones, the desires of my hurt ones. And it's funny because as I'm talking about it, I'm like, well, okay, what about, the desire of a serial killer to kill?
Trust your desire.
Right? I don't want a serial killer to trust their desire. And so how do we make this distinction? And I think it comes back to, do you know your goodness? At the core of the core of the core of the core of your being, do you know your goodness? And I believe that for myself, even through all of the times when I was not living my highest self, I was living from my wounded self. I knew at my core, I knew my goodness. Do you have that sense have you always had that sense for yourself?
Yeah, I feel really clear. And as you said that, I got to reflect on a conversation I was having this morning that was totally a desire that came from wounding that started in high school. And in fulfilling that desire, it was like from so much wounding that immediately when I fulfilled the desire, which was in 2013, 10 years ago, getting breast implants put in.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like this desire of, I want to be desired.
Yeah.
I want my body, in order to be desired, I need to have this thing inside my body. And that's what's going to make me desirable.
Yeah.
And that was coming from wounding. That wasn't coming from an empowered place in which I made that decision. And then to then get to see the journey that has been of fulfilling that desire. And the desire was like, I really want to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was like because I've dissected it down to like, I want to be seen. I wanted to be loved. I want to be desired.
Yeah.
But the thing that was so interesting is that when we make decisions from wounding and when we put out these desires from wounding, quite often we don't actually get what we want, what we truly want. Because I wanted to be seen, but the funny thing about it is for 3 years after I got those first set of implants put in, 600 cc's where I looked like a porn star, no one actually saw me.
They saw your boobs.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
They saw the physical manifestation of the desire, but I didn't actually, like I, Amanda, the being, the soul, the spirit, the intelligence, the beauty, the brilliance, that was not seen. And so it was such a paradox of what I thought I wanted and what I thought I was going to get. And that's why we get to be also really clear about what is the place from which I am desiring.
Yeah.
Am I desiring from wounding or am I desiring from truth? Am I desiring from the core of my essence and my being and who I know I'm here to be in this lifetime? Or am I desiring out of what society says I should look like?
Mm-hmm. And that experience led you to see, led you to understand, led you to know what was true.
Yeah.
Right? You did that. You got to have that experience. And that's what we get to do in these bodies. We get to try things on. You got to try on those 600 cc boobs. See what that was like.
Someone today was like, what size was that? I was like, I don't even know because I didn't wear a bra, but it was probably like an F plus.
Yeah. Huge boobs. You're a little human.
Little human.
You're a little human and you had these huge breasts and a bodybuilder body.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah. Right? Because you were also doing the bodybuilder, competitive bodybuilding thing. And you got to try that on. You got to have that experience in your physical body so that you could see, oh, it's not my physical body that I want to be seen. It's my heart and soul. And I don't know, you might not have gotten there as fast if you hadn't have gone down that road. You know, I'll just go back to our friend that I was talking about who like keeps moving towards the thing, you know, that he desires that keeps rejecting him. Here's the beautiful part. I'm seeing him become this amazing human being in the process of each hardship that he has to face because he's going towards something that he's not actually an energetic match for or he's not an aligned match for. I get to actually see him spiral up into becoming the energetic match for more of what he wants. You put something that is not energetically aligned for you into your body so that you could see, oh, that's not the match.
Right.
Actually, for what I want, you had to try it on. You had to try it on. Does this fit? Nope. It doesn't fit. Okay. Take it off.
Almost. It was like, try it on, go to like take it off, put another pair in to just make sure. Just got to make sure that maybe if they're just smaller, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
And then immediately every cell in my body being like, take those things out of me. And then it requiring 3 more years of working with and against all of what that was to finally be like, okay, can I just come to terms with the fact that these are not supposed to be in my body and how my breasts look is how my breasts look. Mm-hmm. And can I actually release the attachment that has been since high school of like that shadowed place of I'll be desirable. I have a desire, but it's from a wounded place of shadow of if I have this, then I'll be enough, then I'll be loved, then I'll be seen.
And I'll just give the counterpoint on the breasts piece there. because I have implants. They are the smallest implants that I could possibly get. I got them I got them now 6 years or so ago. I nursed both of my kids for 5 years each. And then 2017 came along. I'd, been done nursing at that point for, 10 years. And I wanted my breasts to look different. And I almost got really big ones put in. And thank God I had a moment of clarity before that happened. And I said, no, let me find the doctor that will do the smallest ones possible. And I went to the doctor that did the smallest ones possible. In fact, he sits you up in the surgery and sees like, okay, what's the smallest I can put in and that'll look good. And one of the things that I did before the surgery, the night before the surgery, is I did a 90-minute NLP session to take me into all of the places from which I was making the decision to get the implants. And I looked at not just my own personal, why am I doing this, but actually my, through many, many, many past lives, like historically went into all of these places that women have been not only objectified, because I think women's bodies are so beautiful objectively, but harmed through objectification. And I met those places inside of me. And then I looked at all of the places from which I was making the decision, and I met those places inside of me, both the wounded places and the empowered places, such that when I went into the surgery the next day, I was going in from the fully empowered part of myself. And what has occurred as a result of that, number one, my healing was incredibly rapid. Number two, like my doctor actually couldn't believe how rapid it was. And number two, there's never been a day where I have not felt that these are my breasts. They're my breasts. I don't feel as if they're implants. People look at them and don't even know that they're implants. For me, what happened in that surgery was I got right with the desire. The desire was actually from the place of where I looked in the mirror and when I looked in the mirror before the implants, what I saw didn't line up with my own self-image. I looked in the mirror and I was like, wait, that's not what I look like, but it was what I looked like. And so getting the implants actually aligned my self-image with my reality. And I think because I was doing it from that place, I had a different experience of it. And it's a really interesting question for me to be looking at now as I am in my 50th year, 49. And most of the women in my life, not all, but most of the women in my life who are over 50 have had significant plastic surgery on their faces, and I have not yet. And I'm in the big curiosity.
What is the place from which this choice is coming from? What is the place from which I am desiring whatever it is that I'm desiring? And what I want to just kind of consolidate for anyone who's listening around this conversation is, we started the conversation by saying, trust your desire, hold on to your desire, stay with your desire, and take a look at every single desire that you currently have in your life right now and dissect it to where is this coming from? What is the energy from which this desire is coming from?
Yes.
And is it truly aligned, integrous, coming from goodness, coming from beauty?
Truth and beauty.
Not like distorted beauty image or standards or whatever, but like from the beauty of life itself. And really being honest with ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, in this, so I've actually had surgery booked twice, and most of you would look at me and be like, "You don't need surgery." Well, yeah, of course, it's all relative and it's all subjective, and I don't need surgery. It would be from a desire if I did it, and I've had that surgery booked twice, and have canceled it both times, recognizing, oh, I got to do a lot more inner work here. If I am going to do this, it needs to I'm not ready. I'm not ready, not because I'm not old enough or not because my face isn't ready for it or any of those things. I'm not ready because I haven't done the inner work on it yet. That is enough for me to know where is the desire coming from. And so to wrap up today with desire, the encouragement that I hope that this episode gives you is the encouragement to really honor your desires. Honor them enough to look at where are they coming from? Where are they coming from? And how can you honor them, whether they're coming from the wound or they're coming from your most fully empowered self? How can you honor them either way? Amanda would not be the woman that she is today had she not made the choice she made from her wound. I would not be the woman that I am today had I not actually gone towards a lot of things that I desired from my wounded self that needed to be met. They needed to be met. Those desires needed to be met. And as long as I was not harming other people, the greatest gift that I could actually give to life was to go towards the desire. Try it on. Feel it. How is it in my body? How does that feel in my body? How does it feel in my experience? Knowing that I will learn and grow and evolve from it. And that actually it will bring me closer to what my soul really desires for me. And yes, a lot of times going towards my desires caused me great pain in the form of rejection, or in Amanda's case, in the form of multiple surgeries. And the pain is worth it. The pain of going towards your desire and not having the desire met will bring you one step closer to that which you truly desire, which I don't think you can know unless you're willing to experience the pain of not having what you want. That's the secret. That's the secret code. In order to have what you want, you must be willing to have the pain of not having what you want. You must be willing to have the pain of unmet desires, of disappointment, of vulnerability, of rejection. Because if you're not willing to feel all of that, you're going to compromise. You're going to protect yourself. You're going to settle to keep yourself safe. This life is not for keeping yourself safe. This life is for making yourself into a safe person. And you make yourself into a safe person when you own your desires fully, whether they're from the wound or from the empowerment, and you go towards them as long as they're not hurting anybody else. They're not taking from anybody else. Don't go towards those desires unless you have consent, in which case you can take from somebody else if you have their consent. And feel the pain of the disappointment, feel the pain of the rejection, feel the pain of having made the wrong choice, feel the pain of, oh, that didn't get me what I wanted. Because on the other side of all of that is your truest heart's desires. And that is worthy. And you are worthy of having that. And we need you to have that. Life wants you to have that.
It's true. It's so true.
So I'm glad you got those big old boobies.
Oh, man, what a journey.
Because look at you now, beautiful and whole and like really committed to feeling great in your body.
Yeah.
Like really committed to feeling great in your body.
Yeah.
You might not have known that you even had that commitment otherwise.
Definitely. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Guided Podcast, where we encourage you to dive into the truth of your desires and also the place from which you are choosing them.
So that you can have the courage to listen and act. Bye for now.
If you enjoy the Guided Podcast, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. And be sure to come back next week. Until then, this is Katz and
Amanda Goolsby.
And remember, life knows.